The grass shifts softly under her feet, the only sound breaking the stillness of the night. She steps carefully, her eyes fixed on the towering baobabs ahead. The shrine stands shrouded in darkness, an ancient weight pressing down on her as she nears its entrance. The air feels alive, charged with something unspoken. A low voice cuts through the silence, the sound curling around her like a breeze. Her name comes from the shadows, faint yet unmistakable. She halts, her breath catching in her throat. "Who's there?" she murmurs, glancing over her shoulder. The whispering continues, a haunting melody that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Her thoughts race to the coughing fits that racked her brother's fragile frame, the weary faces of elders in the village square. The healer's words echo in her mind. The sickness won't stop unless we find the source. She clenches her fists. Failure is not an option. Too much depends on her success. Her fingers graze the cool stone of the shrine, tracing symbols, carved by hands long gone. A faint glow catches her eye, a hidden altar nestled beneath layers of dust. The stone sits within, pulsing softly, almost breathing. A warmth radiates from it, seeping into her fingertips as she hesitates. The whispers grow louder, pulling her closer. As she cradles the stone, the air shifts. Her instincts scream that she is not alone. She glances toward the entrance, where the moonlight barely touches the ground. A figure lingers there, their form blending with the shadows. Her heartbeat quickens, her grip on the stone tightening. The figure steps forward, his age evident in the slow, deliberate movements. His voice carries a warning, rough but steady. That stone will bring more death than life. His words hang in the air, heavy and final. His gaze locks onto hers, piercing, as though he sees through her defiance. Despite the old man's foreboding words, she grips the stone tightly, a quiet determination settling over her. "If there's a chance to save my brother and my people, I'll take it," she declares. Her voice carries no hint of doubt, only the weight of resolve. As she steps away from the shrine, the stone begins to hum faintly, its glow intensifying. The whispers now surround her, louder and more insistent, as though the night itself has come alive. Her hands move instinctively, blending leaves and roots with practiced precision. The scent of healing herbs rises as she works, her mother's voice echoing in her mind, reminding her of each plant's purpose. Yet, outside the walls of her home, doubt festers. Murmurs creep through the village, cutting through the stillness of the night. The whispers sting like thorns. She doesn't heal, she conjures. Her mother was the same. The accusations linger, weighing on her shoulders. Their mistrust isolates her, but she doesn't falter. In the dim light, his hand grips hers. His breathing is shallow, his voice barely a whisper. "Don't let me go," he pleads, his frail fingers tightening. She forces a smile, but the fear in her heart is louder than her reassurances. Resolve replaces hesitation. The healer's tools are set aside as her thoughts turn to the forbidden shrine. Warnings echo in her mind, stories of the cursed stone, whispered for generations. Still, she knows the path she must take. There is no other way to save him. By the village square, a commanding voice rings out. We must act before it's too late. His tone is resolute, but his expression betrays his unease. His eyes linger on her, suspicious and unyielding. The villagers nod in agreement, their gazes flickering with both fear and hope. Around the stake fires, conversations grow heated. "The stone can cure us," someone murmurs, but another voice snaps back, It brings death. The debate stirs unease, and the flames seem to flicker with their doubts. As the sickness spreads, pressure mounts. The leader's council demands action. "How much longer can we wait?" one asks. Another counters, "If we drive her out, who will heal us?" The tension deepens, lines dividing the once unified village. Under the night sky, stories are shared. The elders' voices are low but clear, their words weaving history and warning. They speak of ancestors who faced trials, their spirits guiding the living through wisdom. The village listens, hoping for answers. At dawn, smoke rises with the villagers' prayers. Offerings of food and incense are placed with reverence, the ancestors' blessings silently sought. The ritual binds them, even as fear threatens to tear them apart. She approaches the elder with questions burning in her chest. His hands tremble as he speaks, his voice heavy with memory. "That stone," he says, his eyes distant, "tests the one who dares take it." His warning feels like a weight pressing against her decision. As she turns to leave, his voice softens, almost inaudible. "Only one can bear its curse," he mutters. His gaze stays fixed on the horizon, his thoughts lost in a truth he cannot fully share. The satchel at her side hums faintly as she walks. The glow remains hidden, its power stirring quietly, as though waiting for the moment to reveal itself. She does not notice, but the air around her seems heavier, a faint ripple of energy following her every step. With trembling hands, she grinds the herbs into a paste, the faint glow of the stone lighting her path. As the mixture thickens, the whispers become louder, words she cannot understand. Her pulse quickens. She applies the salve and waits, her breath shallow. Nothing happens at first, but then a low hum fills the air. The herbs dissolve too quickly, leaving behind a blackened residue. Her eyes dart to the walls, where shadows shift unnaturally. They stretch and twist, moving without a source, vanishing before she can focus. Her heart pounds as she turns, convinced something is behind her. There's nothing there. The villagers speak of worsening ailments. Her remedies made me weak. One groans, clutching their side. Another stumbles, pale and feverish. Fear spreads like wildfire. "She brought this upon us," someone shouts. The once hopeful murmurs have turned to cries of accusation. A meeting is called, the crowd restless. "She has cursed us." Oba's voice rises above the chaos. "This is no healer's work. It is darkness." His words strike like a drumbeat, the crowd echoing his anger. Amid the uproar, one steps forward, his spear grounded in the earth. "She is no enemy," he declares, his voice calm but firm. "If she were, would she not have fled? Give her time to prove herself." The crowd hesitates, their anger tempered by his courage. By the fires, whispers fuel the night. "She seeks more than healing," Bintu warns. "Mark my words, she craves the power of the stone." Suspicion festers, spreading through the village like smoke. Determined, she turns to her mother's old chest, its contents untouched for years. He stands beside her, silent but watchful. Together they uncover a faded map, symbols etched along its edges. "This," he says, pointing to an unfamiliar mark, "could be where the truth lies." That night, her dreams are heavy with visions. A figure looms, shrouded in darkness, the stone in their grasp. They wield its power, driving enemies away, but their face twists in agony. The weight of their choice lingers as she wakes, the echoes of their screams still in her ears. A low voice startles her. "You are unworthy." A figure cloaked in shadow steps forward, their presence oppressive. She grabs a nearby tool, raising it defensively. Sparks clash as they fight, her movements desperate but determined. Just as she gains the upper hand, They vanish, leaving only a talisman behind. She examines the talisman, its symbols familiar. It matches the markings on the map. Her pulse quickens as the realization sets in. This is a key to the ancient ritual site. The map leads her to the edge of the forest. The air feels different here, charged with energy. She ventures deeper, guided by instinct, until she finds the oracle. The ancient figure draped in leaves speaks softly but firmly. The stone binds life and death. To disrupt it is to invite chaos. The words settle heavily on her. You must choose, the oracle continues. Your brother's life or the village's survival. The stone tests not just power but the heart that wields it. Her path is clear, but the weight of her decision presses down, each step forward heavier than the last. Families huddle close as moans of the sick fill the air. The whispers spread rapidly. Fear, blame, desperation. We are cursed, someone mutters, glancing nervously at the hut where Nyah works tirelessly. Children cling to their mothers, elders shake their heads, and the air feels heavy with despair. In the village square, Oba's voice booms, silencing the murmurs. This cannot go on, Nyah. Your defiance has brought this upon us. The stone must be returned, or you must leave. There is no other choice. All eyes turn to her. The weight of their stares is suffocating, but she does not bow. Later, under the pale moonlight, Nyah corners Ayo. Her voice trembles with anger. Why did you defend me if you knew this would happen? He lowers his head, then slowly removes the mask he wears. I needed to see your heart, he says, regret tinging his words. The village deserves a leader who understands sacrifice. With the stone clutched tightly, Nyah stands at the sacred circle. The chants flow from her lips, ancient words heavy with meaning. The ground rumbles beneath her feet, cracks forming as light bursts from the stone. The air vibrates with power as a figure emerges, a towering spirit shrouded in ethereal fire. Its voice shakes the earth. The curse will not lift without sacrifice. Tears stream down her face as Nyah steps forward. Take me, she whispers, her hands trembling. The villagers gasp, their cries of protest filling the night. There must be another way, someone shouts, stepping forward, their face resolute. The spirit pauses, its fiery gaze turning toward Oba. The whispers from the stone grow deafening, revealing fragments of truth. He knew, someone says, their voice rising. Oba knew about the curse. The villagers press closer, their faces twisted with betrayal. Oba stumbles back, shaking his head. I did it for the village, he pleads, but his voice falters. Ayo steps forward, his spear gleaming in the light of the stone. You betrayed us all, Oba. Your silence caused this suffering. He points the spear at the chief, his voice steady and firm. The villagers erupt into chaos, surrounding Oba with cries of anger and demands for answers. Nyah raises the glowing stone high, her voice cutting through the uproar. Enough! If we are to survive, we must stand as one. No more secrets. No more lies. The crowd stills, their eyes fixed on her. The spirit's voice softens. The curse is not broken by a single life, but by the unity of many. Only a shared sacrifice can restore balance. Hesitantly, the villagers join hands. Their collective hum of chants grows louder, their energy pooling into the stone. Light bursts from the stone, sweeping through the village. Shadows dissolve, the sick rise with renewed strength, and the air feels lighter than it has in months. Nyah collapses to the ground, the stone now a dull, lifeless gray. Oba is pulled aside by the villagers, his time as leader over. Ayo steps forward, meeting their expectant gazes. I will guide us, he declares, his voice steady, with honesty, unity, and wisdom. As dawn breaks, the villagers gather around Nyah's resting place, whispering prayers of gratitude. Children place flowers by her side, and elders recount her bravery. Together they vow never to let her sacrifice be in vain. The village begins to rebuild, united by the memory of the woman who brought them peace. The air shifts, heavy with silence as the first rays of dawn pierce through the clouds. The sick stir in their beds, rising weak but alive. Mothers weep with joy, clutching their children, while elders press their hands together in quiet gratitude. The shadows that had haunted the village dissolve, leaving behind a stillness that feels like peace. She lies in the center of it all, her breathing shallow but steady. When her eyes flutter open, murmurs ripple through the crowd. The scar on her arm glows faintly, its intricate pattern mirroring the stone's form. Whispers spread like wildfire. Was it a curse or a blessing? But in their eyes, she is no longer an outcast. She is the one who saved them. He steps forward, shoulders hunched under the weight of the crowd's gaze. I have failed you, he says, his voice trembling. The villagers murmur, their faces a mix of anger and pity. He removes the beaded crown from his head and sets it on the ground, bowing deeply. The silence that follows speaks louder than any words. By evening, the village gathers around a shared fire. Laughter mixes with solemn stories as they share food and memories. The wounds left by fear and betrayal begin to mend slowly but surely. They sit closer now, no longer separated by suspicion. The warmth of unity replaces the cold grip of division. Her door is never quiet. One by one, they come, seeking her healing touch, her wisdom, and her guidance. They speak her name with reverence now, no longer tainted by mistrust. She greets them all, her voice steady, despite the exhaustion in her eyes. A leader they had once feared is now the one they trust most. I will guard the village, and you, he says, kneeling before her. His voice carries the weight of a vow. She watches him carefully, her expression unreadable before nodding. The past lingers between them, but the future stretches ahead, filled with possibilities. The villagers gather again, this time in celebration. They light torches and sing songs, honoring the sacrifices made and the unity found. Names of the lost are etched into stone, their memory forever part of the village's story. As the flames flicker, they hold hands, forming a circle that feels unbreakable. They carry the stone to the shrine, a procession of silence and purpose. It rests beneath layers of earth, its glow fading with each handful of soil. Yet even buried, its presence lingers, a reminder of the power it held and the lessons it taught. She dreams of whispers, faint and distant. Voices call to her from a place she cannot see, their words unclear but urgent. She wakes with a start, her heart pounding. The village sleeps peacefully, but the unease lingers, a shadow in her mind. At the edge of the village, she stands alone, the wind brushing against her face. The horizon stretches wide and endless, full of promise. She places her hand over the scar on her arm, its warmth steady and reassuring. With a deep breath, she steps forward, ready to face whatever comes next. The scar on her arm burns faintly as she traces its edges, her gaze distant. The weight of the secret she unearthed presses on her heavier than the stone ever was. She whispers softly to herself, truth demands sacrifice. The air around her is still, but in her heart, the echoes of her family's past speak loudly. The pain was necessary. The truce, though harsh, has set the village free. The square fills with quiet murmurs, the villagers seated close, their faces reflecting a mix of relief and remorse. One speaks, their voice steady but filled with emotion. We were blinded by fear. Another responds, and fear almost destroyed us. Nyah steps forward, carrying a bowl of water mixed with herbs. She dips her fingers in and begins a simple ritual marking each villager's forehead with a streak of water. Forgiveness binds what fear breaks, she says. Slowly the crowd joins hands, their voices rising in a chant of unity. The shrine stands silent, its presence commanding respect. She places her hand on its surface, feeling the pulse of her ancestors' wisdom flow through her. The lessons are clear now. Heritage is not a burden but a source of strength. She whispers, "I carry you with me." Her voice trembles, but her resolve does not. The responsibility is hers now, and she accepts it with a bowed head and an open heart. Kneeling at the base of the shrine, she holds a small wooden figure in her hand. It's simple, carved from the roots of the sacred tree. She sets it down gently, her fingers lingering for a moment. "Thank you," she breathes, her gratitude carrying into the wind. For the first time in what feels like years, her shoulders lighten. The village hums with life. Children race each other, their laughter ringing through the air. The elders sit under the great tree, their voices low but filled with warmth. A group tends to the fields together, their movements synchronized, their spirits renewed. Hope blossoms in every corner, its roots firm and unshakable. She stands where the fields meet the horizon. The scar on her arm catches the light, a reminder of the past and a symbol of the future. The whispers are faint now, distant and unclear, but they do not scare her. They are a challenge, a promise of more to come. She takes a deep breath, her eyes steady, one step forward, then another. The road ahead is hers to walk,